Alright, so this is just going to be a kind of mid-season analysis, my thoughts and opinions, my hot takes, if you will, on the newest season of Below Deck. I've been watching this show for a while. I would just watch random episodes here and there, and then I started streaming it from the original season on Peacock. And I've watched the first 4 seasons in full and decided to watch the newest season as it airs. And I just thought it would be cool to kind of give my thoughts and make a video about it and see if any other fans of this show are interested in that type of content. So obviously the biggest thing this season is Captain Lee having to step down, which if you haven't watched the season, spoiler alert, I should have said that right before I said that last sentence. But anyways, stop watching now. I think they've obviously hinted at that heavily in the commercial promos, so you're probably aware of that. Anyways, Captain Lee does have to leave this season, and that's the big shocker, the biggest thing that's happened so far. My kind of thoughts on that are that the wisest thing he ultimately could have done is just to take the season off and give himself plenty of time to heal and rest up so that he could come back at full strength. But I definitely respect his decision to work because he's just that kind of old school seaman, ship captain, that he's just got that mentality is if I'm not bedridden, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna work and I'm not gonna let anything slow me down or hold me back. And I feel like you have to respect that work ethic when someone is of that mentality. So I definitely understand how his personality caused him to try and go, but I do feel like he tried to force it when his body wasn't healthy enough to do it. So I feel like ultimately the wisest decision he could have made would have been just to take the whole season off and rest up. But I definitely respect that decision to go. And furthermore, I definitely respect his decision to step down when he realized he wasn't able to fulfill all his duties and do his job to the standard that he sets for himself, because that was obviously very hard and very emotional for him and everybody else in the crew. So I think he made the right decision to step down when he did. And I think that was hard on him, but I think him going ahead and stepping down when he realized he wasn't able to do his job adequately, I think that shows a lot of maturity and a lot of wisdom and grace on his part. So I would say overall, from the seasons I've watched, he seems good at his job. I have a lot of respect for him as a man. And as soon as they started hinting that he was going to have to leave, I kind of felt like Captain Sandy was the obvious choice to come in and replace him. So whenever they had that big reveal that she was coming in, I was like, dang, I called it. Because if you've watched enough of the show, she's mainly on the Below Deck Mediterranean, and the Mediterranean season is the opposite time of year as, I believe it's the Caribbean season they're on in regular Below Deck. And so she's the one that mainly works a different time of the year, and so it seemed obvious that she would potentially be available. And she's the other captain that's on a bunch of seasons that has a lot of recognition and a lot of people know her and like her. So she seemed like the obvious choice to me, and I think that she's an interesting choice to bring in because her and Captain Lee are both kind of well known in the Below Deck franchise, but I think they have very different management styles, and so it's interesting to see how the crew reacts transitioning from Lee to Captain Sandy, because I feel like Lee is very much hands off, and whenever there's an issue, he kind of directly addresses it with the department heads and tells the chief stew, tells the bosun, look, there's a problem with these people, you need to handle it, or I'm gonna start firing people if you don't handle it. I'm gonna fire you. You know what I mean? And he very much puts it on the heads of the departments to handle all the issues, and he doesn't want to hear about it. He wants to be able to just worry about captaining the boat. And then if problems start coming to him, he's just gonna fire people. But I feel like Captain Sandy is a lot more hands-on in terms of if she hears about a problem, she'll try to step in and talk to people and help find a resolution. And there was already an episode where she was helping mop the galley. I feel like she wants to be involved with the crew a lot more. And I don't think either of their management styles are like right or wrong or better or worse, but I think they just have like very different styles of captaining the boat and leading the crew. And it's very interesting to see the same crew under the leadership of each of them. And the newest season at this point, the newest episode at this point is where they finally end up firing Camille. And it's an interesting question, like, would she have gotten fired sooner if Lee was still on board? Would he have, cracked down on Frasier harder and caused him to more directly address the drama between Camille and Alyssa? And would he have, threatened to start firing people? Would that have somehow resolved all their beef sooner on? So I definitely don't have an answer for that, but I think that's definitely something interesting to think about. But that kind of leads right into the next big thing, all the drama between Camille and Alyssa, and then that kind of culminating in Camille finally getting fired. And that, like, it's just, I just need a moment. That it's just blah, blah, like, just so much back and forth, so much pettiness. And I really feel like I've noticed on multiple seasons of the show that the crew just gets overworked and overstressed, and then the most minute comments and, little jabs, little altercations just blow up into this huge drama and this huge shouting match. And then especially when they finish the charter and go out and get drunk, it just, like, I just feel like so many of the arguments and altercations in retrospect just seem so petty and so, like, well. But ultimately, I feel like that's what we love about reality TV and why we continue to watch it, because it's like a guilty pleasure type thing. You can't help but kind of, like, get invested in it and try to take sides, and that's kind of what I'm doing right now. That's, like, the experience you have while you're watching it. Even just by yourself, you kind of say, like, oh, I think this person is right or wrong, and blah, 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 and so on and so forth. So this whole video and what I'm doing now is kind of part of, like, the whole experience of watching reality TV in general. But that's, like, the immediate thing I have to say about the whole drama between them two, is it's just like, well, like, I just can't even, I will say, though, I definitely do think that Camille was kind of slacking off and not doing as good of a job as she could have or should have been. I do think that she was kind of slacking, not fully fulfilling her duties. She was going off and flirting with Ben. This last episode, she was, like, drinking before she finished everything that she was supposed to do, and that was kind of the last straw for Frasier, causing him to finally go to Sandy about it and say, he basically thinks that she should be fired. So I do think that she was slacking off and not really upholding her duties like she should have been. But at the same time, I also feel like Alyssa was very quick to instigate and kind of escalate situations as soon as they exchanged words, when, as the second stew, as, a leadership role over her, she should have been faster to try and diffuse situations and, sure, call her out and check her and say, you need to be doing your work, this and that. Maybe go to Frasier and have him step in and mediate a situation. But rather than doing that, I feel like Alyssa was very quick to get defensive and snap at Camille. So I definitely don't think, I think both of them were in the wrong and were rude and disrespectful to each other in different situations. But I think that Alyssa definitely could have tried to diffuse situations, where instead of doing so, she further escalated situations. And I feel like a lot of the ways that she did speak to Camille throughout different episodes, it did come off as very disrespectful and not cool from my perspective. And the vibe I get for her in general is that she's talked a little bit about, like, having kind of traumatic experiences growing up. And I feel like her experiences and her struggles in life have caused her to become, like, a very callous and hardened person. And I don't want to throw around the B word, but she definitely comes off like a B word. You know what I'm saying? And I kind of feel for her, because I can see how, like, her experiences in earlier in life kind of made her that way and shaped her into that. But at the end of the day, like, you have the choice to rise above that and be better than that. That's not really an excuse for acting like a B word. So I do think she had reason to be annoyed and frustrated with Camille's actions, but I feel like at the same time she was very quick to snap at Camille, and then as soon as Captain Sandy tried to intervene or someone tried to discuss it with her, she would always tear up and get emotional and kind of play the victim. So I kind of get that vibe with her. Like, she's the type of person that, like, is almost conniving and is very quick to try and, like, manipulate a situation and escalate a situation and snap at people and be rude and this and that. But then as soon as she gets called out for it, she wants to play the victim and try to tear up. And I just get, like, a bad vibe from her in general. And like I said, I do feel like she had plenty of reason to be annoyed with Camille and everything she was doing on board. But at the same time, Alyssa is definitely not likable to me. You know what I mean? And I feel like her personality just comes off very kind of rude and catty and B-wordy. But ultimately, I do think that Camille was causing a lot of drama and problems on board, and I do think that it was the right decision for them to go ahead and fire her when they did. And I think, you know, a lot of times when people end up getting fired on the show, you think like, well, could they have possibly lasted longer in a different scenario? Should they have been fired sooner? I think they gave her more than enough chances, and it was right at that point where it was time. You know, I don't think she should have necessarily been fired any sooner or later, but I think it was at that point where, like, that was all that was left, was for her to be fired. You know what I mean? I think the timing on that was, like, just right. I do kind of feel like one thing that I was thinking is that I do kind of feel like if Frasier had more leadership experience, he could have maybe diffused some of the situations between Camille and Alyssa and kind of motivated Camille to, like, do better in her job and so on and so forth. And I feel like he kind of, as a new Chief Stew, kind of lacks the experience to be able to really motivate the stews under him and to be able to resolve conflict between them. And that's obviously something that you have to pick up and learn with time and experience. But I feel like that's definitely something that he needs to work on. And I feel like they kind of mentioned it during this last episode, that he's the type of person that wants to try to be friendly with everyone, and I feel like he struggles with being able to kind of be a hard ASS, like, when you have to, and lay down the law and, like, be a little strict and manage your team. And I feel like that's something he needs to work on and learn. But overall, he's very likable to me. I like Frasier a lot. I just I definitely kind of feel for him, and it makes him more likable that I see him kind of, like, struggling to manage the team, and all that stuff kind of makes me, like, it's kind of endearing and kind of makes him likable to me, if that makes sense. And I feel like you can tell that he, like, really wants to do a good job and puts a lot of pressure on himself to, like, make everything perfect. And I have respect for that, you know what I mean? And that makes me like feel for him and like him overall. Haley, the other steward, I feel like she's hardly been in it at all. Her voice reminds me of Adele, but I don't her accent is kind of, like, off-putting to me. Not to hate or disrespect, but that's the main thing I was going to say about her, is I feel like she's hardly been in it. Like, I didn't even remember her name until this most recent episode, and when I watched it, I was like, oh, I better make a note. Remember her name. But the few times she has talked, she said crude stuff. She, like, made a comment about, like, pleasuring herself to pictures of herself, and I was just like, no, that's tacky. Don't say that on TV for everyone to hear. Like, but overall, though, I will say that the fact that she hasn't been in it a ton attests to the fact that she's keeping her head down and just doing her job and staying out of drama. So I feel like I do have respect for that. And I do feel like it's clear that she's doing a good job with her job on board. So I will say that about her. But the few times she has talked, she's made like crude and inappropriate comments. So it's kind of just like, blah, I don't know. The other big thing to address is the whole kind of like will they, won't they between Ross and Katie. And my thoughts on that is like off gate, Ross comes off as a clear F boy, and it's across several episodes. Whenever they go out and drink, he's trying to hook up with girls. He's honestly acting like a straight up creeper. He gets drunk and then he's getting all aggressive, getting all trying to make out with everyone, grinding up on Camille in the hot tub, and it's too much. There was another episode where he was talking to Frasier, talking about how he's lost count of how many people he's slept with, and he's going to all these swinger parties and this and that. Like, he gives off serious F-boy vibes, and he gives off serious creepy vibes from what I've seen of him. And I just honestly I don't see what she sees in him like at all, because he's got, you know, he's in good shape. He's got nice hair, but I think he's a bit of an uggo, to be honest with you. I think he's like a male butterface. You mainly hear that term thrown around with regard to females, but he's a butterface, in my opinion. And I don't mean to hate and be crude, but I'm just trying to make the point that I don't really see what these girls see in him. You know what I mean? He made out with Alyssa on one episode. Katie's like basically trying to date him, it seems like. But in my opinion, the first time they got drunk and he was showing this F-boy behavior, Katie should have been like, nah, that's that. It's going to be strictly platonic, strictly, you're my boss, strictly work relationship. I don't have any tolerance for that. I'm not going to pursue anything with you. I'm not going to be kissing on you after you're displaying that behavior. I feel like him doing that once should have been like, that's a wrap. And she should have not showed any further interest or had any expectations of anything happening with him. And I feel like the fact that she continually flirts with him and says like, oh, you're in the doghouse, oh, but now you're out of it, we'll see what happens this night. I feel like she's kind of making herself look stupid by continuing to try and pursue things with him when he keeps messing up and keeps acting like a clear F-boy. And so that's like, I feel like if she has any self-respect and wants to be like an independent, empowered woman, she just needs to cut things off and not be messing around with him at all. And I feel like that's the only like right thing for him to do for her to do at this point. Excuse me. I don't know. I feel like that's more than enough talking. I guess the other relationship with Camille and Ben, I guess they're kind of cute together. In my opinion, as a straight guy, I do think Camille is the most physically attractive on the boat. So props to Ben for being able to get with her and whatnot. But I don't know. I feel like he's a bit of a weird looking guy too. I think it mentioned that he's like indigenous Australian, but I feel like he kind of has like white boy looking face and features, and his hair too. And so like how dark his skin tone is, it to me it looks like he has like a bad spray tan or something. You know what I'm saying? Because he's got that indigenous like dark skin tone, but I feel like his features and his face and his hair look like a straight up white boy. So it just looks like he has a bad spray tan. And I guess he's an attractive enough dude, but it's just like when I notice something like that, I'm just like, ooh, he's not really that attractive. It just looks off on him, and I don't know. Maybe that's unfair to say, or I don't know. I apologize if that's offensive. That's just like what I am consistently thinking when I see him. It's just like something looks off about him. And honestly, like, none of the guys on this season are particularly attractive. I feel like Tony's kind of got, like, a busted-looking face as well. But I feel like, overall, I like him. I feel like some people... I was watching the Galley Talk, where people from other seasons react to the newest episode. And some people were, like, seeming like they kind of didn't like Tony and were annoyed by him. But I kind of like him because I feel like he's a simple, straightforward guy. Like, he wants to wake up early and work out, and then he wants to, like, stay out of drama and work hard. And the one episode where Ross was kind of calling him out, saying, oh, you know, you're moving slow on deck, you know, maybe you shouldn't wake up early and work out. He was like, nah, that's my routine. I got to do that. But if I'm moving slow, I definitely hear you and I'll pick it up. I'll make sure to address it. He didn't escalate it. He didn't like fight or talk back. You know, he just said like, if that's how you feel, I'll make sure to address it. And I respect him for that. I feel like he stayed out of drama. I feel like he's been annoyed by the drama that's went on. And I feel like he's came off likable enough to me this season. I will say too, if I was him, the scenarios where he was trying to sleep and Camille and Ben were like above him having sex, I would be pissed off if I was him. I would like the next day I would go up to Ben and be like, look, that is not cool at all. If you're gonna do that, you need to let me know beforehand. You guys need to take it somewhere else, or you need to let me know beforehand so that I'm not underneath you while you're doing that. And he kind of did say that this last episode, but it seemed like that was like the second or third time that had happened. The first time that happened, I would be like, no way, that is not cool. Like, I understand people trying to be all open about sexuality, but like, that's still a private act. Like, don't be doing that right above me. Like, I feel like that's just disrespectful, and it's just not cool. I feel like I probably talked long enough. I think that was about everything that I wanted to cover. I think I made a point about everyone on board. So yeah, I guess I'll go ahead and wrap it up. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a like. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Let me know if there's any other points that I didn't mention you would like me to elaborate on. Let me know if you agree or disagree with anything I said, you know what I mean? And what I'm interested to know is, what do you think about this season of the show compared to previous seasons? Because I feel like it's upper mid tier. I feel like it's not quite a top tier season so far, but I feel like it's been solid. I feel like each episode so far has been interesting and engaging and made me excited for the next episode. So I feel like it's like a solid mid tier, but not quite upper tier, because I feel like some of the earlier seasons there is a lot that goes on and are kind of tough competition, but I feel like this is a very solid season so far. So let me know your thoughts overall. What are you thinking of the season? If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to my channel, so on and so forth. But yeah, thanks for watching, especially if you watched all the way to the end. Super props to you. But yeah, have a blessed day, everybody. Peace out.